Hello everybody. I am Dr. Farhan Zamir, an adjunct professor and academic specialist at Biotecnika, Bangalore. Today we will try to look into a very important concept, and this is about how to write a research proposal. Now, many of the students, when we do a lot of internships at Biotecnika, they would ask, sir, I am truly interested with research, but any point of time when I approach a supervisor or a mentor, the first question they would put forward is, can you write a brief proposal? Can you please write up a small idea of what exactly you want to pursue? Now, this is the most crucial part, and many a times most of our students, they fail because nowhere in our curriculum this concept is being well explained. So this many a times comes with an experience, and we at Biotecnika, we are trying to help you by facilitating the concepts of understanding of research and how to put forward this particular story of your research onto the paper so that you can achieve greater heights. Let's try to understand and dwell in. Hey everybody. So for today, what we will look upon is how to write a research proposal. Very, very, very important concept. Now, before I tell you how to write a research proposal, let us try to understand why should I write a research proposal. Now, this why question becomes very, very important, and it will segregate you into various tariffs. So please remember, by any point of time, if you are a BSc student or a BTech student trying to apply for a small kind of a funding, okay, so here comes a different kind of a sector. Now imagine, sir, I have finished my BSc or BTech and then I want to directly go into my PhD. So here is an integrated program facility wherein you can go into a direct PhD, and here the kind of research proposal which is being expected is entirely different. Now you can tell me, sir, I have finished my PhD and then I want to apply for a postdoc. And for a postdoc, the way you're writing a proposal is entirely different. And here comes the last category. You say that, sir, I have finished my postdoc, but here I'm a faculty or I'm a scientist somewhere, and here the government or a private institute or an R&D or a university is asking for a research proposal, is asking for a research plan. Now, these are the various segments in which you need to bifurcate, fragment your research proposal, and then, the way of approach is entirely different. But in this video, what we will try to look upon is, I will give you certain general tricks and tactics which will actually help you to write a very effective research proposal. Now, before I go into the depth of it, so first we need to understand what is the necessity. Now, many a times when I look into the necessity of a research proposal, either it is to upgrade your knowledge, okay, either to get a higher degree, or many a times, you are like a storyteller and you're enthusiastic of something, and then that has to be systematically put into a document. Now, if you are not putting it in a systematic way, nobody would believe it, or many a times it becomes difficult for the reader to follow your dreams. Okay, or to get convinced with your dreams. So here I want to take a small deviation and tell you a story. Rather than you being a researcher, you need to always look into your research as a film. A cinema, when it is being produced or when it is being directed, there are two major important people who are involved. Okay, do you think it is the actors? Absolutely not. Because the two important people who are involved in the production and into creating something which was an idea and transforming it into a reality or into a masterpiece requires two important people. The first person is the director. So this director is a storyteller. So, as an actor, I come, act, and then go off. I would do my one frame, I would do a bit, and then I go off. But however, the entire frames would be put together and the idea would be from the director. So remember, your storyteller or the screenplay, many a times he or she is the director who knows the entire frames of the film. This is point number one. Now, point number two is, for me to create this movie, I need to have funding. And this funding for a cinema comes from producers. So the producer is the major funding agency which actually helps in financial to create or break that barrier, financial barrier, so that the storyteller, that is the director, is able to translate a virtual concept into reality. So now with this analogy, I am trying to make you understand who is a director, who is a producer in terms of research proposal. When you talk about research, as me as an enthusiastic research, I am the director of the entire research proposal. So why do I call it as a research proposal? Remember, when I say a research proposal, there should be some amount of novelty which has been involved. Point number one. Because if I just show you the gizzy-pitty, love story, okay, wherein there was a hero, there was an heroine, and then there comes a villain, and then the hero is much more stronger enough to kill the or to get rid of the villain, and then finally there is a happy ending. There is a hero and heroine coming together, and that's a happy ending story. But remember, there should be something new, because here I am trying to attract my mentors. I am trying to attract the reviewers who is sitting to review my research proposal. So this becomes very, very important. So novelty in your concept becomes, or in your research proposal becomes very important. Now, moving forward, why do I need to write research proposal? Now, UGC, that is Universities Grants Commission, has put up a rule for all the faculties saying that, you cannot just teach. Okay, so if you want to become a holistic teacher, there should be 3 components in your career, that is the teaching career, and this is called as ART, A-R-T. Now, A stands for administration, T stands for teaching, and R, very importantly, stands for research. And it is this component what we are talking about. So if you look into most of your faculties, all the faculties are at one point or the other, they are trying to write a startup grant, or they are trying to write a seed grant, or they are trying to write an young scientist grant, or they are trying to write up a core grant, or an extramural grant, or an intramural grant. So everybody at one point of time, either by pleasure or by pressure, are inclined towards research, either through the universities or the institutes at which they are working. So here the UGC has put up a very important claim which says that API refers to Academic Performance Index. So how do I grade your academic performance index? So academic performance index is being graded with the art, whatever we have explained. And also remember, this also reflects the kind of research what you are trying to do and the amount of funding which your research proposal has attracted. So writing a very interesting research proposal for getting funds becomes a primordial factor, and everybody is behind this. Either take it from a governmental university or an institute, or from a private university or institute. So here comes a very important point, that how do I write my research proposal? What are the components of a research proposal which can actually help me in getting a grant? Now let us try to look into it. Before I start with the entire framework of a research proposal, remember, the first and the foremost thing what you need to do is identify your trust area. The trust area, you cannot just say everybody are working on cancer and today I will also start writing a proposal on cancer. This will not work. So as I told you, you need to create an hypothesis. Hypothesis building becomes very, very important. So this builds the entire core of your research proposal. So many a times you need to be passionate, and also you need to be practical, and you should know that within a given time frame I should be able to finish this kind of a research proposal. So the reality or the feasibility of your project is also being judged. So remember, the two major important components is, one is the novelty and the second one is the feasibility of this particular project. So always remember, you need to identify your trust area, and this trust area, okay, there wherein what everybody has already done and what more you can contribute plays a very important role. So do not just go and tell just because breast cancer has a huge scope and from today I will also start working on breast cancer. This formula, this mantra will not work. So first thing is we need to identify the trust area. Now, by any point of time during your BSc or your MSc or your BTech or MTech, if you would have created a history. Now, what do I call it as history? History is wherein there's a small amount of paper or a small amount of thesis or a dissertation which has been put forwarded. Okay, so imagine that you have started learning bioinformatics in your bachelor's. Now, with your bachelor's information, you have started doing some molecular docking, and there is some amount of at least 1 or 2 review papers or one original paper which has come out of this particular work. Now, this you are trying to create in history. Now, based on this, you can apply for a PhD, or in a PhD, if you have already worked on something, based on that as a platform, you can still apply for a postdoc, or on a PhD and a postdoc, if you have a platform which you have actually proved, and based on this concept, you can look for your future perspectives when you actually get a permanent position or on a tenure track or a non-tenure track. So here, having a complete baseline, creating that particular threshold, and also adhering to a kind of a particular topic becomes very, very important. This gives you an idea that you are following an inverted pyramid approach. Now, what is an inverted pyramid approach? I started with a problem, and then as I have matured during my course of my research, so this entire proposal is now being constrained onto one particular topic, and this one, the tip of the inverted pyramid will actually define the novelty of my project. So trust area becomes very, very important. So right now what I am trying to make you understand is the logics of research proposal. So trust me, my dear friends, there are 7 major steps what you need to follow when you are actually writing a research proposal. Remember, when a reviewer or when your mentor is reading for a research proposal, they are looking for 3 major things. The first thing is the clarity of your thoughts. Okay, you cannot jump in and say, sir, I want to do something, and then I'm passionate about it. Whether it will work or not, I don't know. But however, I still want to work with you. Okay, this will not work. Okay, but on the other way, remember, there should be entire clarity of your thought, of your research. This is point number 1. Point number 2 is, whatever you're trying to tell, you need to concise it. Okay, you need to be very, very concise when you're actually, proposing your research proposal. And then the third one is, the first one is you need to be clear. The second one is you need to be concise. And the third one is you need to be highly, highly critical about your topic. So you should not go with an emotional background. You should go with a logical background so that you can actually comprehend what you are writing. So just make sure you follow all these 3s, and this will actually help you in designing a good research proposal. So to start with, the first thing, you need to ask 7 major questions. The first thing is, what is it all about? Okay, what is your research all about? So this will talk about the aims and objectives of your research proposal. The next one is, what do we already know about this particular research topic? Because you are never claim that you are the first person in the entire world who have looked into this particular topic. Because in my career, I have looked into many students because of some point of ignorance and some point of over enthusiasm. They would always say that, sir, I am the first person in the entire world who is actually doing this research. It's a big no-no. Do not be confident, but do not be overconfident on a research. So doing a thorough literature survey becomes very, very important. So you know what is already been done. And as we have looked into our previous video, wherein we were looking into the data mining procedures and looking into how do I actually explore a PubMed and how do I understand the already research which has been done with a particular topic. So what has been already done, I need to actually look into it. The third point is, what do we need to find out? So you need to actually put up a research question. So what do I, with this as a background, people have done something, and what do I actually need to do? The next component. And the next thing is, once I decide what I need to do, the next component is, how do I do it? Okay, for how do I do it, this you are trying to define the methodology of your research proposal, and then finally you will also look into what are the resources, okay, how long it will take, very, very important. This will help you in designing your work plan, and also the time frame. Okay, you cannot say that, I would try to design this particular proposal and I will do it for my lifetime. Okay, so nobody will believe you and nobody will fund you. So it becomes very important that you give a strong work plan, and with that you also give a time frame in which you can actually answer your research question and make the research project much more productive. Then very, very important is the ethics component. Now, if for example, if you are trying to work on a preclinical model or a clinical model wherein you have the animals or human or the primates or any kind of an animal model what you are trying to work upon, you need to have a clearance from institutional ethical committee, which could be either human ethical committee or animal ethical committee, and you would explain in detail that how are you trying to explore all the animals, okay, and how are they, their life being justified. Okay, and this you need to say that the animal has been sacrificed for the sake of science, so that the science has been upgraded. Okay, without any purpose, it is a big no-no that you should not sacrifice, or even you should not harm any of the animal or any of the patients or subject per se. Then once I have all this together, then finally with a research proposal, what are my outcomes? So, and who is the big group which is getting benefited? Now, please remember, when I'm talking about the outcome of the project, I need to think in two different ways. The first thing is, how is my society getting contributed? And then the other important thing is, how is the scientific fraternity which is actually getting contributed? So what is the scientific upgrade what you are trying to do, and then how exactly a common layman from the society can get benefited from your research? These are all the 7 major questions wherein a researcher should ask before framing a research proposal. Let's move on. Now, once you have the research proposal, okay, this is an outline. So remember, when I am trying to put up an outline, I have kept around major funding agencies, especially from India, which are actually funding, okay, the master students and PhD students and postdoc students, including the faculty. So this is a general framework which has been given. But on the other way, if you want a specific kind of a framework, example, sir, explain how exactly DST would, have a template for a research proposal. If that's the case, please, leave a comment in your, comment box, so that we can create a much newer video exactly, focusing on the DST format or an ICMR format or an Ayush format. So let's come back. So research proposal outline has 7 major headings or captions. The first thing is the title of the project. Okay, so the title of the project mainly has the title of the project. Whenever you're trying to do, a big mistake what most of the students or most of the faculties or the researchers they do is they put up very long titles, and many a times the title itself is like a 1 paragraph. So this should not happen. Make sure your title is broader, and above all, it should be catchy. So this becomes very, very important, so that you're tempting the mentor, you're tempting the reviewer to read, okay, the exciting science what you have actually narrated. So title, remember, it should not be more than 70 characters. So an effective title is not more than 70 characters or not more than 10 to 12 words. So this is an important point what we need to remember. Then the next important point is, how can you, because most of the reviewers, they do not have time. So they would not like to invest their lot of time in reviewing your entire proposal. So how do I make it much more catchy? It's like a trailer. So if you are again going back to the analogy of a movie, this is why should I watch your movie? So to make the movie much more interesting, or I am trying to tempt for you so that you can just watch the movie. So what do I do is I show you the trailer. So when I show you the trailer, so here the trailer is nothing but your abstract, which is a small gist of the entire research proposal what you are trying to narrate. Then comes the research context. So what is the research context in which, or the background or the introduction component which will explain why should I do this research? Remember, in the research context, I would expect a lot of biostatistics and a logical rationale, okay, to the reason for me to pursue this particular research. Again, very, very important. Now, once this has been done, or once this has been justified, the next important thing is your research question. Now, depending on your duration of the project, okay, you need to define your research question. Many a times the project would be for 1 year to 10 years. Okay, so 10 years is a mega project, but however, most of the projects they have from 1 to 5 years. So in this, if your project is somewhere around 1 to 2 years, just make sure asking one research question or solving one research question is sufficient. But any point of time, it is between 2 to 3 years, then having two objectives would, or sometimes three objectives or three research questions is also justifiable. But if it is at least 5 years, just make sure it is between 3 to 5 objectives which have been achieved in this 5 years of duration. And if it is a mega project, so you have the multiple consortiums or the multiple groups which have been involved who will execute multiple, objectives depending on their research expertise. Then once you have this research question defined, then each the researcher will explain how exactly all these individual questions, research questions, will be adapted so that the methods and methodology could be explained over here, and ultimately you will explain the significance of research or the outcome of the research. Then finally, you would also quote the work which has been done by various people, that is called as bibliography or references, so that this will be in support to your the research proposal, or also it will tell how is your concept deviating from the knowledge which is already existing. So all this is the important component wherein a reviewer would look in for. Now, here the general information. I would try to try to be a bit faster, so that the first information is the project title. You need to have a strong project title which is catchy, okay, and which will help the reviewer to understand the entire gist of your story. Then you need to also explain what exactly is the priority area. Example, health science is a priority area, or in health science, what is the sub area? Then you need to say, in health science, I want to look into bioinformatics, or or I need to look into biochemistry. So here you are defining a sub area in a system. Then the third thing is, what is the duration of the project? So depending on the duration of the project, the feasibility of the proposal and the budget of the proposal will be inclined towards this particular duration. And as I was trying to tell you, the total cost of the project will reflect the duration and the expected outcome. Now, by any point of time, if there are certain imports or exports which has to be done, okay, so then you need to actually very clearly specify that what exactly is the foreign currency which has been involved, or which is the equipment what you are trying to buy. And remember, this is also very crucial because the currency, the global currency keeps on fluctuating, so it becomes difficult for a researcher to put up a precise amount for a given equipment. And I would, on a personal note, I would suggest you to always have a leverage of around 10 to 12%. Even if there is some fluctuation in the currency, this 10 to 12% will be able to manage your budget. Then very importantly, okay, who is the principal investigator? And if it is a multifactorial or multidisciplinary project, then who are the co-PI of the project? So most of the funding agencies are actually seeking for co-principal investigators. And remember, these co-principal investigators, not necessarily they should be from academia. They could be from an industry, or they could be from a startup. They could be from an research institute, anywhere. But however, they should have a regular position. However, the next one is, what is their designation? With the designation, the reviewer is actually looking upon the experience of the researcher. Whether the researcher is an youngster who is just starting up, or a researcher is a seasoned researcher wherein some amount of history which has been already been created. Remember, we have also done a video on understanding the mentors on the basis of Google Scholar, on the basis of PubMed indexing, Publon indexing, and all those things. So please refer to that. And finally, it will also look into what is the name of the department in which you are trying to execute this project, and also the name of the institute, whether it's a university or it's a private institute or it's a government aided institute or it is an autonomous institute. All these are being judged with the address of the institute wherein the money would come in. Then finally, they would also look into the date of birth of the principal investigator. Now, if you look into the DST, research proposal system, they would ask for a principal investigator who is still in his service tenure. So, the principal investigator should not go beyond the age of 60. So, hence, this has been very strictly monitored, and then certain personal details has been also captured, like Aadhaar number, PAN card number. All these are being captured. Now, moving on forward, they also look for certain collaborating institute, whether you are trying to collaborate intra or inter, state or between the countries. This is also an important thing. And then finally, here comes the major science part. So this major science part would talk about the research summary. The entire research proposal should be concised in not more than 300 to 500 words. Then comes the objectives, we have already discussed on this, and then the problem which has been intended to be addressed, and then what is the applicability. Now everybody is looking for a technology wherein just merely publishing one paper is of no use. Everybody is with, when a funding agency is giving you money, they are looking for IPR, they are looking for from product, they are looking for a patent, or they are looking for some technology which has to be developed with this particular project. Remember, it is the taxpayers' money which has been invested on your research through the governmental agency. Then, very importantly, you will also look into the national and international status in terms of review of literature, how exactly your research can create an impact on at a global status and at a national status or at a state status or at a regional status. This plays a very important factor. Then work plan. What is the entire work plan? Many a times I would request you to please put up your work plan in terms of a flow chart, or many a times put up a beautiful bar diagram which can explain what exactly is the time tenure which has been required to execute your work plan. Then finally, very, very important is your budget estimates. Whether do you want to have a JRF, or do you want to have a project assistant, or what is the amount of money which is required for buying an equipment. What is the requirement for your recurring or non-recurring expenses. Everything has been looked into. Then comes a very important point, which is justification. If I am asking for an equipment, say for example HPLC, the government will ask me, or the funding agency will ask me, why do you require this equipment? So during my entire workflow or in my objective, this equipment should become a prime equipment, and hence I am trying to justify with the proposed research, this equipment is a highly must equipment, and hence without this I'll not be able to execute this project, and hence I need to give a strong justification. And apart from that, I need to give the institutional details of where exactly this particular project has been executed. And now especially with the DST, the principal investigator and co-principal investigator details are already been uploaded there, and they have separate accounts, which becomes the which makes the entire submission process much more easier. Now budgeting becomes very, very important, and hence I have kept an exclusive slide on budgeting. Now, in budgeting, there are two major components. One is recurring and the other one is non-recurring. Now, in the recurring budget, those equipments or those items which are being just procured every year comes under recurring, and those equipments which are being purchased only once during the entire tenure of the project. Example, I want an HPLC, and HPLC will be procured only once. So this will come under what frame? This will come under recurring or non-recurring? This will come under non-recurring. And then if I want to buy a chemical, example HCl or sulfuric acid, so that comes under recurring, because every year sulfuric acid will be consumed as a consumable for my experiment, and hence next year also I might require sulfuric acid or any other chemical. So this becomes very important. So the costing, the estimate becomes important. Then most of the projects, they also have a provision to keep a project staff. So you can take up a JRF or an SRF, or you can take up an RA or a research associate or a research assistant, and sometimes it's also called as technical assistant, who can help you in executing this particular project. Then comes what are the equipments which have been required. Again, you can divide it into the equipment which is for first year, equipment for the second year, equipment for the third year. But remember, equipment would come under the non-recurring component. Then comes the domestic travel. Imagine you're trying to do a field studies, and with this field studies, if you want to go on a car travel, or if you go on to go into Western Ghats for collecting samples, all these things will come under. Or if you're going for a presentation or into a conference or into a seminar, all this will come under domestic travel. Then importantly, you have the consumables and contingency, and very important, most of the funding agencies are lenient enough in providing certain basic necessities such as stationaries, photocopying. All these things are being utilized under the head which is called as miscellaneous. Now comes a very, very important head which is called as institutional overhead. Now institutional overhead is, depending on the funding agency, you have 12 to 15%, many a times it can go until 20% of the total budget of the fund of the research grant would be dedicated onto the institutional overhead, so that the institute also develops with the research grant. And because the institute is also trying to give you basic facilities such as power, telephone, all the basic laboratory equipments, okay, all these things are being provided by the institute, and hence you need to always allocate a separate institutional overhead grant depending on the funding agency. So with all this, what I am trying to make you very clear, that designing a research proposal is not it's not an overnight job. You cannot do an overnight magic so that tomorrow morning you get up and you start writing a proposal and your proposal will be granted. This cannot happen. So what I am trying to make you understand is, make sure your research proposal is something like you are a sculpture. Okay, and this the sculpture will actually will get molded into different phases. Okay, so if you are the artisan, so you have the chisel and the hammer, so you have to actually very patiently sit and do this particular sculpture, otherwise at any point of time the sculpture could break. So it becomes very, very important that you have lot of patience and perseverance when writing a research proposal. And from Biotecnika, we wish you all the very best, and we hope that all these kinds of videos will help you in polishing and nurturing your research. And from the entire team of Biotecnika, we wish you all the very best. And by any point of time, if you think that these kind of videos are very much helpful for you, please leave a comment below so that we can make much more videos as per your requirement. Thank you very much. All the very best.